Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. From the Jethro's Barbecue Studio, I'm Justin Brady, and KCCI just turned 70 years old. That's kind of crazy. And so who better to celebrate and talk about that than Cynthia Fodor and Steve Karlin? You guys had minor roles over there at KCCI for a while, right?
Yeah, so there may be better people to talk about this. Yeah.
Well, 70. You've been there for 70 years, right, Steve?
Yeah, between us.
70 years.
Between us, I think.
Steve's going to talk about when KCCI was born. But before we get started, everybody, as a reminder, Jethro's Barbecue. This is the Jethro's Barbecue Studio. If you want a special deal, they're going to give you a $30 gift card for free. All you need to do is go to iowapodcast.com, scroll to the top, click the banner that has Jethro on it, buy a gift card, and they're going to give you a $30 gift card for free. So that's kind of cool. 70 years, KCCI. I think you guys are probably the authority on much of what has happened in KCCI recently. Of course, you both retired, not at the same time, but a couple of years ago. So I think probably the best, coolest thing would be, what are the big memories that stand out to both of you?
Well, I think we should go back to the beginning because it was July 31st, 1955 when the station went on the air. And so that was just yesterday. And it seems like yesterday. But Steve has a memory of walking in his very first day on the job, which he reminded me of.
Yeah, I mean, KCCI has long been known as the best small market television station in the country. It has a nationwide reputation that's just impeccable. Mm-hmm. And, people have, sought this place out. They wanted to work here because they knew it was a really good training ground. And luckily for us, it was a place where we could come and stay and have great careers, work with great people at a great place. But my first day was February 22nd, 1989, and I worked for a few years at a competitor in town, WOI, and so WOI was number 3, and of course KCCI was number 1 in a 3-station market, and I was, very happy to be making the move, but I walked in there on the first day, and there's Paul Rhodes. I mean, Paul Rhodes was there the day that the station signed on in 1955. He was working. Sure. There was Dave Buzik. There was Kevin Cooney. There was Pete Taylor. There was Connie McBurney. And a whole host of really good reporters and photographers. And quite honestly, it's like walking into the locker room of the 1927 Yankees, who a lot of people think was the greatest baseball team of all time back in the Ruth era, and just thinking to myself, what the hell am I doing here? But they let me hang around for 34 years, and I ended up having a great career at a great place with great people, just super professional. Had opportunities to go elsewhere at various times throughout my career, and just never figured that I could improve upon where I was and what I was doing.
Right.
And I was in New York working, and I got
Albany,
a call
right?
one day. Yes, in Albany, and got a call out of the blue one day from someone who said, I'm the general manager at a station in Iowa. Would you be interested in working in Iowa? And of course, my response was, where's Iowa? I literally could probably not have pointed it out on a map. I was one of those East Coasters at Ohio, Idaho, Iowa, which is it? And he said, well, if you haven't ever been to Iowa, come on out and for the interview, and then you'll know where we are, and you might learn something.
Yeah.
So I came out, and they were so family friendly. I had just had a baby, my son Jake, in New York, and which was part of the reason I was looking to move to somewhere that was family friendly.
Sure.
And everyone just embraced that, and they were all about family, and we're family here, and we take care of each other. And I signed a 3-year contract, and I thought I'll do 3 years, get him through the baby years, and go back home.
Oh,
it's been
interesting.
31 years.
Wow.
Iowa kind of puts the hook in you.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? And every time I looked to leave, I weighed the advantages of staying, and it was like, why would I want to leave here? This is a great station. Every place I went, I asked about KCCI back east, and do you ever hear of the station in Des Moines? Everyone knew it, and they said it's the top CBS-rated station in the country.
Really?
At that time.
Why was that?
Because our our audience was just gigantic.
Crazy.
You know, it's all adjusted for population, but we would have 40% of the televisions that were on in central Iowa for, say, the 10 o'clock news. And I know the noon news forever, but, you know, we always we're kind of in between that, like 35 and 45%, depending upon the newscast. And I hate to say this because, you know, I have a lot of friends at the other stations, but we just destroyed people.
Yeah.
We just ground people
We
under
were
our heel.
Iowa's news leader, and today everybody tosses around those terms, but we really were, because we had to look at those numbers.
What's really funny is, like, when you guys got in here, so obviously cameras weren't rolling yet. They were you guys were mentioning which side of the desk here you should sit on. You're like, well, this is my side, and so some of those habits are probably kind of stuck. What are you still doing? Any of that in any capacity now? Like, you've been doing this for years. We're going to talk a lot about both of your careers, but are there any habits that kind of stuck? Like, for your friends and family, are you giving news breakdowns or?
Oh, always. I read the news. I spend every morning when I get up reading the news for at least an hour if I don't have anything going on, or two. And I have a number of different sources, and to always check KCCI. And
of course,
when you're a news junkie, you're a news junkie, and it doesn't stop. It's just, everybody's a news reporter these days. So, you go to Facebook and you kind of scroll through that, or you might be missing something. Miss a lot because I'm not a big scroller.
If you're a curious person, journalism is a great place to be. It's an education every day. I covered, and I know Cynthia has too, every beat. From state house to courts and cops to county government to city government. I didn't want to know how any of that stuff worked, especially when I was young and fresh out of college. But you have to do everything.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that since we spent so much time together, we always refer to each other as our work spouse. This is my work wife, and I'm Cynthia's work husband, because we sat no more than a foot, 14 inches from one another for at least a half hour a day, many times more. For how long did we anchor together? It was
about 24 years, 25, on and off.
Crazy.
I mean,
that's a lot.
And you kind of have to finish each other's sentences, or you get to that point. I mean, there are times in a script, as you know, the teleprompter would stop working, or something would happen in the studio that the viewer doesn't see. And I always knew if I lost my place, that Steve had my back. He'd pick up where I left off.
See, I've never got to use a teleprompter. That would be nice, though. I'm always
Maybe
off
that's
script.
coming next for podcasts.
I mean, it already is.
Makes you look a lot smarter
They
than
took
you
away
are.
scripts from us in front of the desk because they didn't want to see scripts, and we had to have iPads.
Sure. Yeah.
That was really a hard change for me because I always underlined words and circled things. And
Wait a minute. So they took that away? Like, you were able to do paper, and then they took that away and wanted you to do iPads?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's obnoxious.
Well, it was good in some respects because you could see exactly where you were in the whole show. Where, when you had paper scripts, you just had that in front of you, and you could see what had been taken out of the show because whatever had been removed. Of course, they tell you in your ear, but when you had paper, sometimes you're reading and they're talking to you when you're reading. You don't necessarily get it, but
yeah, you want to stop and say, what'd you just say?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You have to keep reading. That's a hard thing to do too. Do you have anybody talking in your ear right now?
Not for this. There was some. I did the Global Peter Drucker Forums live stream from Vienna, and I did have people talking in my ear for that, and I hate it. You just have to keep going. And then also kind of think about what they're saying at the same time.
Right.
So I have a lot of I don't know, I think sympathy might be the actual right word for you doing that, because that is messed up.
It's a lot harder than it looks. It really is.
Hard.
I mean, it's
I always kind of just looked at it as I read out loud for a living. In front of a camera.
Just the anchoring part of it. There's a lot more to it.
You guys were mentioning that yesterday you just had like a KCCI throwback party last night.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Who showed up, and were there any drunken brawls? Just kidding.
No.
If there were, we wouldn't tell you about them.
A lot of tears.
True.
Ton of hugs.
Stays in the family.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of tears, a lot of hugs. I mean, you walk in, it's like a big family reunion with hundreds and hundreds of people. And oldies, Dolph Polium was there, and he was the first black broadcaster in Iowa on the air. And Mary Brubaker, a name from the past.
90.
Yes, she showed up, and everybody just hugged her and with tears in their eyes. And Heidi Soliday was there. Heidi was the first female sports director in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Elmo Hawkins was there, the first female African-American anchor in Iowa, I believe. So there's a lot of history in that room last night.
Kidding.
And
a lot of names people recognize
because
for sure.
Because the place was so successful and there was such a high standard, people are really, really close. And you work in news very closely with other people because emotions, anxieties, everything are right there on the edge.
Yep.
Well, when you're
when
you're covering such traumatic event sometimes, a tornado, and you're with your photographer and driving there, and you're both nervous and you don't know what you're going to find or what's going to happen or if you're going to survive it yourself. You really develop a bonding with,
for sure,
your coworkers.
And because Steve, you did the flood of '93.
Yeah.
You did a ton of coverage there, and then Cynthia, you did the 9/11 coverage. I think when it was breaking, didn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
they
And
called me that morning.
Yeah, those are both pretty intense moments, not just in Iowa, but nationally. I think those are the ones that people probably are familiar with. They're like, I remember that moment. It's seared into my brain. What are some of the moments that are seared into both of your brains that maybe people weren't aware of or wouldn't be on the average Iowan's radar?
Well, that's a really good question because there are so many.
Well, I just going to 9/11 right off the top of my head, a very good friend of both of ours, photographer Courtney Kinzer and I, we were put together that day, and our job was to go to the airport because all all aircraft were ordered to land at the nearest airport.
Right.
And so we stationed ourselves on top of the parking garage in front of the terminal and watched the planes come in. And then we were the ones, when people came down the escalator, to tell them what had happened. And there was a plane, and I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about this. There was a plane from Logan in Boston.
Gosh.
And to tell people what happened, see the looks on their faces. Some people immediately started crying. Others fell to their knees. And there was, if you'll remember, as you faced the escalators, there was that little bar off to the left. I don't know if it's still there, but it was this little cubbyhole bar, and that place was just jammed. And everybody was trying to get information from that television. That was just a chilling day.
That's crazy.
And we're supposed to be the calm in the storm. And, we have our own fears that we carry to these events. And a day like that, I mean, of course, we woke up to the same images as everyone else, but we're told, get in here right away. And you're thinking, what's next? Are they going to bomb 801 Grand or hit
Right.
801 Grand with a
course.
plane, or because it was tall buildings, and what's going to happen next? And you don't know if you might not make it home that night.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, it was, you talked about tornadoes. I mean, I grew up, my mother's town, when she was young, was wiped out by a tornado. So every time there was a bad storm in western Pennsylvania, where I grew up in Pittsburgh, my mother would take us to the basement and put us under a table.
Oh, really?
And have snacks down there, and you expected the worst. And I grew up with that. And then I come out here, and I'll never forget, I started in November, and it was a terrible winter, 94. I fell on the ice and broke my tailbone. I wrecked my car on the ice. And spring finally came. And I turned to John McLaughlin, our weatherman, and I said, John, I've been counting the days till spring. I'm so excited for spring in Iowa after this winter. And he said, yes, and now we are entering severe weather season. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, get ready for tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes and flooding.
And the first one I experienced, I was called out to anchor because a tornado, a funnel cloud, had been spotted at Hyperion Golf Course.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
My husband was on the course golfing at the time. My son was in a summer camp at the Science Center, so I knew he was outside somewhere. And I was terrified. I ran in the bathroom, and I was like, I can't go on the air. I just can't, I can't do this.
But then you did.
But
the thing about Cynthia is that, Cynthia, I just, when things get hotter, I get cooler. I don't know. It's just always the way I've been, and
Survival mechanism
would
of some kind.
would get
rattled,
kind of amped up about stuff, and then as soon as the little red light goes on, she's just stone cold great. She never ever made a mistake. She was so easy to anchor next to because that can be catchy. If somebody's making a lot of mistakes, all of a sudden you're making a lot of mistakes too.
You're only as good as your team, Yeah.
But and we were such a team there. I mean, there's no I in the word team, right? They say.
Right.
And everybody lifted each other up. If you were having a bad day, I mean, what I loved working about Steve was he always made me laugh. And he always brought levity or lightness to the situation.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, you both had not just we're Iowa, so for historically, we punch way above our weight class nationally when it comes to international events too, because all the presidents, at least historically, had to come through here. You both have interviewed numerous presidents. You both have had an incredible experience doing that. One of the things I think you both know probably better than almost every Iowan is you have access to everyday Iowans and the way they think, and you have access to some politicians who kind of live in ivory towers and maybe at times are a little disconnected. And so
a little
the informality of the caucuses. I know that some people were like, "Oh, it's just write-ins," and that wasn't a bug, that was a feature, and I think you guys kind of understood that better than anybody. Do we see, and I don't know if there's an answer to this, but at least in part, the Democrats right now, just their national approval rating is really awful. Is that maybe partially to blame? They left the caucuses, they left the grassroots. There's not that informality. There's not Iowans challenging them. Is this maybe part of why they're not doing so well?
Well, that is the demographic that they're doing worst with. Is working class and rural Americans, and I'm sure it's part of it. I don't know if, of course, nationally they don't think that way because they always would just denigrate the Iowa caucuses at every turn. But before I retired, I think except for President Trump, I interviewed every person who ran for president from 1988 on.
Yeah.
Everybody.
You were in the White House with President Obama, too.
Which was great. And
we covered Obama when he was riding bumper cars at the state fair.
And
we get to do these things with the candidates. And Iowans, they say, get to kick the tires.
Yeah.
And see who these people really are. And that was always my goal when interviewing a candidate or hanging out with them. We got that opportunity. We had the access. They wanted to talk to us.
Right.
I mean, I moved here from New York where Mario Cuomo was governor. You couldn't even get close to him unless you were national media. It was the opposite out here. The national media would be clamoring to get close to the candidates.
So true.
And they would want to talk to the local reporters. And, you know, Iowans were so interested. It always, I couldn't believe it when I first came out here in the first caucuses, 2 years before an election, when candidates start showing up. And a lot of them, I mean, we had I remember in 2015, there were 17 Republicans running. And in 20, there were 22 Democrats coming to Iowa. And the Iowans from small towns, like in Marshalltown or, you know, wherever you would go to cover someone, Adel, would be out like 100 people just to ask questions of these candidates and asked good questions.
Yeah. And they come from all different directions. You have no idea what's coming. And it's Iowans grow up with this access as kind of our identity. And when I started traveling around a lot, I was always shocked that most states don't talk openly about politics. Here, we'll just start talking over coffee. We'll do it really respectfully. We'll really dig in. And that's just, other states don't do that. Iowans grow up with that as our brand. And so when these, it's a normal conversation here to have some president down the street or a presidential candidate, and someone's like, hey, you want to go see this person? They'll be here in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll go in That's a normal conversation here. So I wonder if, can the Democrats save the party and increase those numbers if they come back to the Iowa caucuses? Is that a realistic thing, or is that never happening?
Well, the thing is that the Democrats are committed to doing a traditional caucus, you know, where people come in and then you have, you know, you have your influence, and if you don't have whatever, I've forgotten the rules. Is it like 15% on the first vote or whatever it is?
To have to study
you have
and
to
remember
move to
every year
somebody
because
else.
those
It's like
rules
this,
are so
you
complicated.
physically have to be there. Where the Republicans have changed theirs to, it's basically like a primary. And New Hampshire, by law, has to have the first primary.
Right. Yeah.
And so if the Democrats had gone to a similar system to the Republicans, I think New Hampshire would have balked from what I've read. But, you know, the caucus process is bulky and all that. But the thing that I would tell people from national media I'd be reporting alongside is, how many times, especially on the Republican side, has the result of the Iowa caucus really meant anything? You know,
the winner of the caucus is not necessarily the winner of the president.
But what
Biden
it
came in
does,
fifth.
yeah,
Right. Absolutely.
What
I
it
think
does
Pete did here. Well, yeah.
is it puts the candidates in situations like out on a hog farm,
Right.
okay, talking to that farmer about ag legislation, or, you know, in a factory somewhere where they make tires or whatever.
Yep.
Or at the state fair where they're flipping pork chops with
access
pig
goes
farmers.
both ways.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, Iowans had access. The everyday American had access to politicians, but they had access to everyday Americans, unlike what they've ever had.
And
Yeah,
they
it's-
enjoyed coming out here.
they
I mean,
did.
it would be sad if that stops. And I don't know, you know, the debacle and of 2020 with the caucus results.
Yeah, 2016 wasn't so good either.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you know, it was just a mess. But it was the system, and you know, it was just especially when they tried to computerize the whole thing, it was just a mess. The DNC took over, and really, in my opinion, from things I reported on, kind of set them up to fail.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
that's
that's actually very
just my
true.
opinion, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Laura Bell in Bleeding Heartland, so she's more of a
Right.
progressive writer. She said the same thing.
Yeah.
She's like, this came from National. The local people didn't screw it up. National got their fingers involved, pulled some levers, freaked people out, and kind of broke stuff. So she agrees with you on that.
Yeah.
The you mentioned earlier citizen journalism. This is kind of a thing now. Like, technology's cheap. And I mean, look at this. I'm kind of qualified. Maybe I did radio at WHO Radio, and I did write for like the Post and a couple others, but this is kind of citizen journalism. And it's like, mics are cheap, stuff's cheap. access. Like a lot of these citizen journalists are getting direct access now. They have distribution through YouTube. They don't need a cable line or an FCC license anymore. Is this a good thing? Does this make traditional journalism better, or does it tear it down?
Well, that's a good question, too. And I think you could look at it both ways. I mean, because it's hard to know. As traditional journalists, we had to stick with the facts, and our opinions were not a part of our stories. I mean, you had to be objective. You had to have integrity. You had to be fair. You had to tell both sides of a story. If I interviewed a Republican on an issue, I would have to find a Democrat. I mean, it just was the way it was. And now I think it's really hard to know. There's so much of that is blurred. You know, the opinion is very subtly interjected in with facts, and you just don't know what is true, and you have to be careful who you're paying attention to, I guess.
Yeah, and if you think about, our time in the business, television news was, that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started radio news, when I started in the mid 80s, in my career, radio news was, on its way out. I remember the Des Moines Register, they were...
Video killed the radio stars?
Yeah, there you go. And, the Des Moines Register was starting to trend downward, and then it was us. And, we were kind of the de facto news outlet here in central Iowa, and which was a good thing because we could be trusted. And the reason I say that, and I say that very boldly, is because we had such good people who were so committed to fairness. We talk about objectivity in journalism all the time. I think it's impossible to be objective. We all come to everything with an opinion, but we were fair, and people knew we were fair, both the people who watched us and especially the people who made news. And so, I think a guy like Jeff Greenwood, who was our courts and cops reporter, who, for my money, during the heyday at the station that we were a part of, he was our most valuable player because, he would get stories and he would hold them for months. He would know what was going on until the person in authority said, okay, we're going to run this story now. And that's just one example. I mean, we had people, Todd Magel down at City Hall. We had, people who really knew what was going on. And I think that's the big difference is that, we lived here, we care about what goes on here, and we would go at stories as evenly and fairly as we possibly could because we knew that we were being held to a high standard by our management and by the people who watched us.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't run a story until we were able to verify the facts and had several sources on it. And there were lots of meetings and talks about stories. And, it wasn't just reacting who's going to be first with this story. It wasn't about getting it first. It was about getting it right.
I don't mean to imply that you were holding all of journalism together. Maybe you were, but in 2021,
we tried.
In 2021, I think these numbers are from Edelman and Gallup. 59%. I just spoke to the new editor-in-chief of the Des Moines Register, but 59% of people had a fear that journalists were lying to them. That was 2021. It's 70% now in 2025.
Oh, I believe
and
it.
so do you think, and I'm not going to point fingers at anyone nationally or say, hey, you're lying, did this to yourself, but do you think that distrust in media is what led to the citizen journalism?
I think what led to the citizen journalism is all of this.
Technology.
The technology and the internet. I'd like to say, 38 years I was in the business, 34 at KCCI, and for all but about maybe the last 5 years, I would say seriously, we were a television station with a web news outlet attached.
Yeah.
About the last 5 years, the engagement online became much greater than what we were able to do on TV. There are a lot of voices out there, a lot of opinions out there, and it's asking people a lot to try to sift through all this stuff and figure out what's real.
Yeah.
Plus, it's cafeteria journalism too. I mean, you go and what do you do at a cafeteria? You eat what you like. You eat what tastes good.
And people choose to read what fits their ideas and what they agree with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm a stickler for time, and I told you both a half an hour.
We're used to that.
But I know it does. But do
show-
you have just a few extra minutes?
We're retired.
Okay, because I'm going to ask. Because one of the things we're going to go into is I want a real-time grade and score on how I've been doing. No, just kidding. I think one of the things I want to get into State Fair because you both covered the fair a lot. Again, really good access, a lot of cool moments there. But can I ask first? What are you up to now? Like, do you have hobbies? Like, what do people still pester you out in public and ask you questions? And what are they asking? What are you up to?
That's what they ask.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know.
And I hated that when I first retired because it's like, oh, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
And I want to say whatever I want to do, whatever I feel
it's always
like.
a difficult question. I mean, what do you mean, like today or in general? In general, I do very little of any consequence, and I'm responsible to my wife and my dog.
And
That's
he has a
pretty much
honey-do list.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, but
I've managed
it's
to.
great.
I've always loved to travel with a last name like Fodor's. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fodor travel guides, but we've always.
Oh, I never put that together. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, Dave Buzik always joked about it and said a name like Fodor would never have any following on when it comes to travel. But we. The travel guides have been kind of in my history. And so I've been able to lead these tours for holiday vacations through KCCI.
Oh, that's fun.
So I still can wear the KCCI banner, and we take like 40 Iowans on these amazing trips. We just got back from the Canadian Rockies. We did 12 days and an overnight in the train across the Rockies. And it was such an adventure. And a lot of Iowans wouldn't ever have that opportunity. It's not something they would plan on their own. But again, I think because KCCI is involved and they trust us, they trust that it's going to be a good trip, and let's go do that. Why not do that? And we have a lot of fun. So we have the Greek islands coming up in October, which will be great. And then next year we're doing London, Paris, and Normandy.
Oh, that's
so
great.
we haven't yet. That's breaking news.
Oh, is that breaking news?
all right.
Yeah, so if anyone's interested out there, please sign up.
Yeah, so holiday travel, Cynthia you can just send a check to her home.
It doesn't quite work like that.
I would like to point out that Cynthia gave a very detailed answer on what she's doing right now, and you were kind of cagey, Steve.
Okay.
You didn't tell me anything.
What do I do?
You're at home is all I got.
He has to mow the lawn
Has to
today.
mow the-
I do have to mow the lawn today. I read for pleasure instead of for work, which is great. I write a little bit, just some fiction stuff. Don't know if I'll ever release that to the public, but it's just for fun.
And Steve is an excellent writer.
I ride my bicycle quite a bit. I do yoga a few times a week.
He's doing retirement the way it should be done.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I walk my dog in the woods for about an hour a day.
And you know what? We were talking
Our yard
the
is
other day.
great. And
He's
I cook
earned-
dinner for my wife every night.
He
Yeah,
has
so
earned
that's what I do.
this for the work that you've done over the years and 40 years and the deadlines every day. That's what people don't realize. We had a noon
Well,
deadline.
that's nice of you to say, Cynthia.
We came into yes, you have. You've earned every minute of it, as have most people who have retired. I mean, that's why we get to this point in life where they say, "Okay, time to slow down." But
Oh, I bet. But to your point, though, I bet it's great that you don't have the deadlines anymore because
yeah,
you guys, you were on these like last second deadlines all the time, and it never ends.
it never ends. And we'd come in at 9 a.m. We had to have a meeting at 9:30. Had to have at least one story idea for that day, in case no news
Yeah.
happened. And a lot of times, we didn't have the murders and kind of hostage situations and things that a lot of big cities have, which is why we love Iowa. But we still have to fill that newscast
Of course.
with something.
Yeah.
So we had to prepare for that. And then there was the noon news. If you were out covering something, you had to be live for that. Then we had the 5, which Steve and I co-anchored for 24 years. And we were out doing stories all day, rushing
had
back
we
to
had
the
a very
station,
unusual shift. Our
and then
days-
had to do anchor the 5, and then you had to go live at 6 again.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we were under so much constant deadline pressure.
Our days were really compressed, and I think we were the only two who ever worked
Had
that
to
shift.
do all that. Yeah.
What's really funny when I talk to TV newscasters who've been doing it forever, and we get to the topic of attention spans, because younger people these days will say like, "Oh, attention spans are just so much shorter than they used to be," and news anchors are always like, "Come on, like we've been doing now it's like YouTube Shorts, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's the great content," and news anchors are like, "We've been doing that since y'all have been in diapers. Like attention spans are the same. It's always been short."
And it's amazing to me the interest in podcasts now, particularly among young people, because we just talked about this yesterday. We were always told the shorter, the better.
Yeah.
And in fact, we went through a period where we had to do our stories in 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Yes.
So I would work 8 hours a day for 1 minute and 15 seconds
Yes.
on the air a night.
And that's the YouTube Shorts cap, or it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be 90 seconds was a YouTube short.
90, yeah. If it
And
was
that's,
over 90,
that's a
they'd
new
make-
idea. I'm doing air
Yes.
quotes for people
If your
listening.
story was 1 minute and 35, sometimes they'd make you go back and cut 5 seconds. I'm not kidding.
Yes, that's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we'd beg for extra time.
Or like, take it out of weather. We don't need 5 minutes of weather every day.
Exactly. You know what? We
I
don't
used
need
to
any
bargain.
weather at all. We have apps. Come on, weather people.
Right now we do. Well, and you've seen even these stations that no longer have weather.
Really? That's
yeah,
a thing now?
meteorologists.
Oh,
Was it
wow. I
Waterloo,
didn't know that.
a station in Waterloo that was going to use a national service.
Yeah.
Goodness, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
They just don't want to pay for, to have local people.
Right, right. Final thoughts. State Fair's coming up. You both did
Yeah.
a lot of State Fair. I'm assuming you're both going to be out there this year.
Yeah.
We go out
for a year
and-
too, probably.
What are some
Enjoy it.
fair highlights that that come to mind?
The greatest thing about the fair, especially when you work for a place like KCCI, is that, as popular as the station was, it was to, all the people out there in some of the smallest towns in our area of influence where our signal reached, we're just this big TV station, okay? And then they come to the state fair and they get to see all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many times people would walk up to me and just say, "I just want to shake your hand. I watch you every day, and I just love what you do, and this and that." And so here we were, we were this big business, and all of a sudden we're doing retail, at the
Sure.
Iowa State Fair.
Good point.
And I used to tell new people all the time, because there was always an element in the newsroom that really didn't care for the fair, and we loved it. We're out there
We're
every
like,
day.
Really? There were some
And
people that were just
some
kind of
people
like,
are
Oh,
like,
yeah, they don't
I
like the
prefer-
heat. They don't like the
so- oh,
crowds.
please.
But I would tell young
we did
people.
our show on the stage out there every day except on weekends during the fair, and we had a huge audience.
yeah.
People would crowd around, and we had so much fun. And I'd have to say one of the highlights, we have to mention the snake in the pants. You know about that, don't you? Don't know that?
No,
You
no,
gotta
no.
look
I
it
Oh
don't
my
know
gosh!
about
You look
this.
it up on YouTube.
Curtis Gertz. Yeah.
We had they would come and put those giant snakes around our necks.
Oh,
Big
Snakes
banana.
Alive.
Snakes
boa.
alive, right? Pythons,
Oh.
boas, and they were
A banana python. That's what it
Oh,
was.
God.
And they put one around Curtis's neck one day, and he had shorts on, and it slithered its way up his shorts
And then down the other side.
and then down the
And,
other
like,
pant
knotted
leg
itself.
and started coming out of the
And they were
pant leg.
drawstring shorts.
And it was sticking out of the pants.
that's amazing.
And he handled it so well. He was saying, "Anybody have a cigarette? This is as good for me as it is for you." I mean, he had every comment you can
And
imagine.
this went on for like 5 minutes. And we had a break coming up.
And
We
Steve
went
and I
to
were
break. I looked at the guy
laughing
from
so hard.
I looked at the guy from Snakes Alive. That's the exhibit out there. I said, "Do you know what to do?" And he goes, "No." So I went over there and just started pulling.
yeah.
He got
know,
down
that's
on his
so
knees.
And Curtis, when we were all done, he said, "Man, I don't know if I would have done that for you."
I feel like I need to edit this part of the interview or something. Or
If you see the video, you will understand.
It's funny.
When I didn't know what viewers at home were seeing because I could only see what was happening on the stage, and I didn't even know if we were. And the audience was just roaring with laughter, and we were laughing so hard we could hardly talk.
Oh, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
And I just, you're on live TV. And I said, if you can't see it, Curtis has a big snake in his pants. And I think I said that once or twice, and then my news director got in the ear because we always had earpieces in and said, if you say that one more time, you're fired.
So good.
But I was trying to explain to the viewer at home what was going on.
90, 100 pounds. It was a huge snake. So, look it up. Just look snake, KCCI snake in pants.
We're going to try to find
It was really
that.
big.
Oh,
It was
it will
really
be
big
easy
in the
to find.
Far East.
Yeah, I think
We're
it
gonna
was
try
the
to find
number
that and
one
link it.
YouTube
Yeah.
hit in Thailand or
It's
something.
hilarious.
Oh, that's
We
funny.
also bungee jumped live one year
Really?
out there, which I was scared to death to do that. And I kept saying, no, I'm not going to do it. And my boss that day said, a 90-year-old woman just did it, Cynthia. You can do this. So I said, I will do it, but I'm not wearing a microphone because I
Didn't
don't
need
know.
one.
Didn't need one.
Didn't need one.
So Steve wore the mic, and he did all the talking,
Set
and
up
I
a
just
shotgun mic and
screamed.
point it at Cynthia and get all the audio you need. If there's one thing that you both had hoped, or if there's one thing you both had hoped you passed on to the current journalist at KCCI, what would that have been, and what are kind of some final thoughts you want to leave with everybody?
Well, I think they saw that last night. The ones who were lucky enough to be in attendance is just the rich history of our television station and just how highly regarded it has been for such a long time, and what a pleasure and a privilege it is to be a part of that legacy. It's just a wonderful place, and I consider myself to be very lucky to have worked there and to have brought the news to so many people who continue to tell me every day how much they appreciate it. So it's just a great place to work. Fantastic.
Right. I mean, it's so important to have an informed democracy, and I think what we did was very important all those years. And I think Iowans really connected with us and we with them, and we thought of them all the time. We thought of our viewers and what would they want to know in this situation. They can't be at this scene or talking to this presidential candidate. We're their eyes and ears. And, when I retired, I told the people at my retirement party, just continue to be a family and lift each other up, because you see a lot. I mean, you see the worst people and the best people, and you're there for the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat when somebody loses everything they've owned in a house fire.
True.
Or they win the Olympic gold. We were covered Sean Johnson and but you need each other as coworkers, and you need each other to just remind each other that the standard has been set at KCCI, and let's continue on with that standard.
Yeah, and you see people at their very worst and their very best.
Sure,
and
true.
I think Courtney Kinzer put it best. He said, what we have is a backstage pass to life, because we're where it's happening, we're where history is being made, and we have a vantage point that nobody else has.
Yeah. Well, Cynthia Fodor, Steve Karlin, both, of course, illustrious careers at KCCI, 34 years and 28 years. I know that Iowans appreciate you a lot. I know that they miss you, and thank you so much for coming on the Iowa
That was
podcast.
great.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Absolutely.
It's always fun to talk about KCCI.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.